took those to be highly inculpatory statements made by officials at different institutions across the country. There's a map in the report showing where these 15 institutions are located. If you turn to one more example, and which I think you might find compelling, is the Appendix 13. What page is that? It's a conversation with the ex-wife of a surgeon.
37.
And I'll only refer to a couple of things there. I spent about 3 hours with her, and I was convinced that she was trying to be a credible person. She may have made some mistakes, but she basically recounted what her former surgeon husband had told her. And if you turn to, it's page 5, it's about the 5th page into your German version, she's asked, how many cornea operations did your ex-husband perform? And his answer, he said about 2,000. And down below she explains that's the corneas from about 2,000 people. These are Falun Gong practitioners, that's indicated. And then the next page, it's indicated that he was paid, in the middle of the page, at least in the English version, he was paid the equivalent of hundreds of thousands of US dollars for those operations. And so these were two types, but there were 18. And since the report came out, we've been now, as I was mentioning, we've been in about, I think this is my 20th country, and we've gathered a lot more information. I'll give you one example. When we were in Asia, both of us, a couple of weeks ago, we met a man who in 2004 went to the #1 People's Hospital in Shanghai, and he for a new kidney, and he had a lot of antibodies, so it took 4 kidneys were brought to him by a military doctor, Dr. Tan, and none of the 4 worked, so he eventually went back to his country and came back a few months later, and they went through 4 more kidneys, and the 8th kidney worked, and so he got a new kidney and he went home and he's fine now. But the truly eerie thing about this is that you can see Dr. Tan's photograph in his uniform, and there are he's got a lot of credentials, and he's actually the head of surgery in a military hospital, not in the Shanghai #1 People's Hospital. But he came and did the operations, I gather, and a number of times the patient told me people in uniforms would go away from the hospital and come back with organs, kidneys in containers. So that kind of terrible story will be in our revised report, which we hope to put out before Christmas. And I hope you all appreciate that 8 human beings died in order that he would get his kidney. And I'll give you a little, just a second. Yeah, I'm quoting from the written report of what I was told. The doctor advised Mr. X, I don't want to reveal his name, that the organ, the 8th organ that worked, came from the executed prisoner, also that the organ was secretly harvested from the unwilling executed prisoner. Well, I think you probably all know that the doctors and the officials all tell you that the organs come from executed prisoners. What they don't tell you is that some of the executed prisoners, a lot of them, are Falun Gong practitioners who never go to a court, are never convicted of anything, are simply medically examined every 3 months in their work centers or detention centers, and then when their unlucky day comes, when somebody like this fellow arrives and they happen to match, that's the day that they die, like some appalling restaurant where you go in and pick a lobster out in the tank. This is all done in China with computers, and people are killed without ever going near a court many, many times, and the government of China is actually killing its own people. We are convinced, and I'm even more convinced now after the additional information we've received, so that they can sell their organs and get rid of their party enemies. When you think about it, if you take a totalitarian system of governance, which is, of course, what China has, particularly violent form of totalitarian governance, you put that together with a kind of capitalism that is completely heartless, that, for example, cares nothing about labor conditions or health conditions or environment or anything except producing T-shirts and consumer items at the cheapest possible price. It shouldn't surprise any of us, I guess, that people who President Jiang Zemin declared Falun Gong community declared an enemy of the state in the middle of 1999 should be dying, we conclude, by the thousands this way. If you look in the report, we came up with a figure of about 41,500 organ transplants over the 5-year period that this persecution has gone on that cannot be explained. In other words, they're not executed prisoners in the sense that they've done some crime. And here I should probably add that in China I think it's 68 offenses for which you can get capital punishment. Even tax fraud can get you the death penalty. Or from brain dead patients or from donors. And we're not saying that there were 41,500 Falun Gong practitioners who were killed for their organs, because in a medical sense you can take more than one organ from a person, but it was certainly a lot of people died for their organs, and we think continue to die for their organs. I guess that's probably not a bad place to stop, and I'm happy to answer questions. There are no embarrassing questions, there are only embarrassing answers, so please go to it. You can be sure I've been asked the question before in 20 countries, so go to it, please.
Fragen bitte.
Selling them, but he also mentioned Cambodia and Thailand. At that time, we were discussing the question in this conference, and we did not know, and it remained the same question, how these people died. They were considered dead bodies, so we don't know anything.
Nothing about Thailand, or you mentioned Cambodia too? No, we have only looked at China, but one of the things we're certain of is that all of the transplants are done within China. As I'm sure you know, the various organs can only last different lengths of time, but it's a matter of hours. But you can take the organ from a victim, executed prisoner or Falun Gong person in, say, northeast China, and you can fly it to Shanghai where the recipient is in a hospital, and we're, I think, totally convinced that the People's Liberation Army does the transportation of these organs with planes and so on. But we've seen no indication that any of these organs were taken outside of China. They were all put into people who could pay within the country of China.